A number of investigators lack the expertise and the experience to conduct sudden death or homicide investigations.
Tonight, reaction on the scathing report on the Thunder Bay Police and its treatment of Indigenous sudden death investigations.
From the time she was an infant, Angel was exposed to persistent abuse, neglect, and violence.
Manitoba's child advocate details Angel's story, shedding light on child abuse and exploitation.
Music and my roots in the Indigenous community have kind of grown together.
And the Don Amero Christmas concert tour could be coming to a town near you. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. Breaking news from Thunder Bay tonight, where city police are confirming the death of 17-year-old Braden Jacob is now being treated as a homicide. Jacob's body was discovered in a park on Sunday morning. Jacob had been missing since the night of December 5th. The 17-year-old from Webequie First Nation in Northern Ontario was in Thunder Bay with his family for ongoing grief and trauma counseling. His body was discovered in the same park where 17-year-old Tammy Kiash was found drowned in May 2017, and where the body of 32-year-old William Wapoose was discovered. His death remains unsolved. The report from Ontario's police watchdog revealed racism within the Thunder Bay Police Service and made 44 recommendations. One is that police reinvestigate some sudden death cases involving Indigenous people. None are named in the report, but APTN matched the dates of the cases in the report with names from the 2015 Thunder Bay student inquest. Willow Fiddler heard from a mother of one of those students today.
The mother of Kyle Morriso says she was told by an elder when her son died 9 years ago that his case would eventually be reopened.
He was just talking to me, and then he says, in the future, from now on, and then in the future, it's not going to be closed, even though if they say the case is closed, whatever's going to go on after, it's going to reopen again. You're going to know what happened to your son. That's what he told me.
On Wednesday, Jerry McNeely, director of the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, released his report, Broken Trust. It slammed the Thunder Bay Police for failing to properly investigate 9 sudden death investigations involving Indigenous people. 4 of those are from the student inquest, including Kyle Morriso. The 17-year-old student at Dennis Franklin Cromarty High School was found in the McIntyre River on November 10. Morriso's mom said she had accepted how police investigated her son's case. They were invited to their community for his memorial last year. So she was shocked when she heard about the OIPRD report on Wednesday morning, and she immediately thought of what she was told all those years ago.
The Creator's going to watch over you, and every time you go outside or wherever you are, wherever you go, you'll see eagle flying around you up in the air. And that's what I've seen all summer. When I go somewhere or when I go just drive to the river, I always see an eagle. Kind of freaked me out though.
The student inquest provided little answers for the families involved. In Thunder Bay Police's written submission to the OIPRD, they say the student inquest found no wrongdoing with their investigations. There were no findings or recommendations directed at the police service with respect to the investigative process, nor was there any evidence found that would lead to the conclusion that further investigation was required. In fact, what should come as a result of the inquest findings and recommendations is that Thunder Bay Police Service conducted thorough investigations into the deaths examined at the inquest. While McNeely says Thunder Bay Police have done a good job on implementing some inquest recommendations, that doesn't include their investigative work. I disagree with Thunder Bay Police's conclusion that the coroner's inquest supports the view that Thunder Bay Police's investigations into Indigenous sudden deaths were thorough and beyond serious criticism. The inquest did not engage in the detailed review of those investigations that we undertook. My review revealed serious deficiencies in 4 such investigations. In Morisseau's case, he said foul play should not have been ruled out and that police failed many steps in the investigation, including not getting evidence properly tested. In his recommendations, McNeely said he wants Thunder Bay Police to reinvestigate, but with a team, including other police services, the coroner's office, and a forensic pathologist. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
It's been over a month since the search for Shawnee in British Columbia ended. Her body was found in Delta near the Fraser River, but her family is now left searching for answers. Lori Hamlin has that story.
Patrick Pete never gave up hope while looking for his missing sister, 29-year-old Shawnee Marita Inyali. For almost 4 months, Pete and his family organized searches and handed out posters.
The searches, they helped keep hope alive. We had a certain kind of hope that we'd be able to find her somewhere alive and well.
Inyali was homeless, but regularly returned to her hometown in Tuathal First Nation in Hope, BC, to visit family and pick up her weekly checks. She had last been seen on July 17th in a homeless camp in Delta, BC. But on November 4th, not far from the camp, hunters discovered her body in a marsh by the Fraser River.
Not knowing where she was, what she was doing, how she was. And now we know it hurts. It's one of the hardest things was at work I had to pull down the posters, and it just brought a big realization that all those searches didn't bring up anything, and now there isn't anything.
In late November, Pete received a worrisome phone call from the Hope RCMP. At the time, Pete had been trying to contact the investigating officer without any luck.
Everything came together real weird because we've been trying to get in contact with the RCMP for almost a month. And then out of nowhere, they were in for an urgent meeting, and I kind of had a feeling. We had to push them extra hard for them to give anything back to us. And I don't really think it should have been like that.
Pete is frustrated. He says missing people aren't cared about enough by everyone.
When I would go to the homeless camps, or if I was putting up posters, the people that weren't homeless, they were always in a hurry. They rarely stopped to help. They wouldn't look at the posters. Everybody has to realize that it doesn't matter if somebody's homeless. If they're a drug addict, an alcoholic, they're somebody's people.
Although the search for Shawnee is over, her family now searches for answers.
They said there was no foul play, but we're waiting on the toxicology report. It's hard to get past thinking that she could have done this to herself, or it was an accident, or it leaves me confused into what happened to her.
Results of the toxicology report are expected to take 3 to 6 months. Lori Hamlin, APTN National News, Hope.
A new report released Thursday outlines the life and death of a 17-year-old First Nations girl in Manitoba. The Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth released her office's findings after a lengthy investigation. As Brittany Hobson shows us, the report sheds a light on a rampant growing problem in the province. A warning to our viewers, this story contains some graphic details some may find disturbing.
Today, I'm going to tell you about a girl who was well loved by her family and by her friends.
Her name was Angel. The 17-year-old is the subject of a new report released by the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth. It documents Angel's involvement with Child and Family Services, beginning at the age of 1 and ending with her tragic death.
From the time she was an infant, Angel was exposed to persistent abuse, neglect, and violence.
Angel was sexually assaulted numerous times throughout her life. The first time was when she was a toddler, just 21 months old. By the age of 12, she was apprehended 14 times, and she went through 46 different placements in her life. The report documents that she used drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. In fall of 2015, Angel died from an accidental drug overdose.
Her story, as you read it, is one that stands out as a shocking reminder that too many children and youth in our communities are subject to immense trauma and are taken too soon.
In the report, Daphne Penrose makes 6 recommendations, including the need for mental health and addiction supports for youth. She also expressed the need for more protection for youth at risk of being sexually exploited.
It's a lack of training with respect to sexual exploitation, a lack of understanding of what sexual exploitation is, and really not just by CFS workers, but by everybody that's involved, and by a lot of the community.
Penrose said Angel was seeking help as early as 8 years old, but everyone around her were unable to recognize the signs. The report also featured the stories of 7 exploited youth Penrose's office is currently dealing with.
It wasn't a situation that happened just to Angel. This is happening to hundreds of young girls in our province right now.
Penrose spoke to the province about the report weeks ago, but Manitoba's Office of the Family's Minister, Heather Stephenson, says it was not privy to those conversations. In a statement, Stephenson said, Macy's recommendations require a whole-of-government response, and senior officials from multiple departments will develop responses and discuss options to collaborate on a sexual exploitation public awareness campaign. They plan to meet with the advocate to discuss ways to collaborate. This is the second child death report publicly released. The office is working on another 8 cases. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Time for a quick break, but first, here's a look at what's coming up after tonight's newscasts.
Hello, I'm Todd Lamarand, and here's what's coming up on Nation to Nation. The National Inquiry into Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls heard final submissions this week, as its report is due at the end of April. We talked to Chief Commissioner Marion Buller about the highs and lows as the inquiry winds down, and what her biggest regret is. We'll also hear from one of Buller's biggest critics, former Northern Manitoba Grand Chief Sheila North, who at one point told Buller to her face to resign immediately. That's coming up right after the national news.
Here's a look at Friday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sunny and +3 for Halifax, +1 under the sun in Fredericton, -9 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, 10 below for Cartwright, +3 and snow in Montreal, a rain-snow mix, and -2 in Saguenay, +7 in Windsor, Sarnia, and Toronto, +3 in Sault Ste. Marie. +3 in Thunder Bay as well, -3 for Big Trout Lake. Over to northern Manitoba, -8 under sunny skies for Puckatawagan, snow and -3 in God's Lake, -1 in Winnipeg, Gimli, Princess Harbor, and Ferns River. +5 in Swift Current, sunny skies and 2 above for Regina and Estevan. -15 in Uranium City, -14 in Stony Rapids. Welcome back. Wednesday's scathing report on Thunder Bay Police was raised during the National Inquiry's closing submissions today. The Ontario government told commissioners that the findings of the report came as no surprise. Angel Moore reports from Ottawa.
Kate Vergette, counsel for the Ontario government, says the report on policing in Thunder Bay shows neglect and racism in the investigations into the deaths and disappearances of Indigenous people.
But I can tell you one thing for certain. Those findings will be of no surprise to Indigenous people across this country and to most of us here in this room today.
Julian Roy, another provincial government lawyer, says police need to gain trust.
Police aren't entitled, for all the reasons that you've heard about, to say to Indigenous people, you should trust us. They're not entitled to do that. They have to earn it.
Speaking on behalf of the Ontario Native Women's Association, Coralie McGuire-Syret says racism contributes to the violence women experience.
We are here because of racism and discrimination. Let's be honest. You would not have an inquiry to address missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls if racism and discrimination did not exist.
She says change can happen by working together.
Your recommendations, I ask, do not divide and continue to divide Indigenous women, that we honor and respect each and every one of us.
Corey O'Soup represents the Advocate for Children and Youth in Saskatchewan. He says protecting the rights of children should take priority. He says he taught his children to be proud, but has to tell his daughter to be careful.
Well, first of all, you're a woman. And there's so many challenges with that, so many things that can happen to you. But you're Indigenous. You're discriminated against. You're looked at differently just because of the color of your skin.
O'Soup prays for the day he can have a different conversation with his daughter. The inquiry continues tomorrow with final submissions from the Nunatsiavut government. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The Métis Nation of Ontario is currently under a one-year probation. It was imposed at the recent Métis National Council Assembly. And as you can imagine, it's a move that didn't sit well with many in the Métis Nation of Ontario, including President Margaret Froh. She joins us now. President Froh, thanks for joining us. You've raised concerns about the report that came to the Special Assembly, that it contains inaccuracies and there was no consultation about it. But what does the probation mean for yourself and the citizens of the Métis Nation of Ontario?
Well, I did raise concerns with regard to the report and really stress the importance of ensuring that our delegates at the Assembly have all of the information in front of them. The probation itself means that there is time for us to have some conversations with our citizens, our leadership, to explain to them what has occurred and to have some time to talk about what our next steps are. In terms of our continued participation at all of the work that's happening at the national policy level with regards to the Métis National Council, we continue to be involved in that, continue to be involved in the business of the Métis National Council. But for sure, we've got some things that we need to speak with our citizens and make some decisions around how we move forward.
There was some talk about the MNO potentially leaving the Métis National Council. Where are those discussions at?
Well, as I said, what we need to do is we need to get out and speak with our people about this. There's a huge lack of awareness around what the Métis National Council has done in terms of these decisions. And we really do need to get out and speak with our people, make sure that our leadership understand what has occurred, and then have some real conversations with our citizens around what is the role of the Métis National Council, how do we fit into that, and how does that work with all of the work that we're doing to advance Métis self-government for Métis in Ontario.
The map of the Métis homeland that was released has also led to some disappointment on behalf of other Métis federations. Do you feel the Métis Nation has some deep internal divisions right now?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's the ability of the nation to decide things like the historic Métis Nation boundaries. Now, those should be based on historic fact, which is very much the work that we've been doing in Ontario to identify historic rights-bearing Métis communities, separate and apart from this issue around the Métis Nation homeland. But I think that there's always concerns around ensuring that we're able to move forward together as a nation to advance the Métis Nation priorities and agenda. I do worry about creating division when a map is adopted that doesn't recognize the historic Métis communities in Ontario, including the community of where the Pali decision comes from, obviously a rights-bearing Métis community. And so I think that there is a risk there if at the Métis National Council level, in terms of what do we do with these communities like the Pali community that are clearly rights-bearing Métis communities, but may not be, based on the decisions that were just made, may not be ultimately accepted as part of the Métis National Council.
President Froh, we're going to have to leave it there, but really appreciate you taking some time for us.
Thank you, Dennis.
Time to step aside for another quick break, but here's a look at why you're going to want to stick around.
Hello. Hello, I'm Daryl Stranger, and this is Donna Mero. Coming up later in the show, I chat with Don about his upcoming Christmas tour, and he plays us a little song.
Here's the rest of Friday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 0 and sunny for Grand Prairie. -2 under the sun in Fort McMurray. +11 under sunny skies in Medicine Hat. Rain and 11 above for Lethbridge. 11 and rain for Victoria. +9 in Kamloops and Vancouver. +4 in Sandspit with the sun out. +4 in Prince Rupert and looks like snow. -23 for Dawson, sunny, and -13 in Whitehorse. -18 for Fort Simpson, 25 below in Norman Wells. -21 in Inuvik, 27 below for Colville Lake. -15 in Arviette, a nice day. -7 in Repulse Bay with some snow. -16 in Iqaluit, 27 below in Resolute. Welcome back. It's Christmas season, and while most people will be listening to Christmas music, one Indigenous artist is bringing the Christmas music to the people. Our Daryl Stranger has more.
Don Amero is a veteran of more than 10 years in the music business. He writes songs and performs them on nationwide tours. Some of that work pays off. He's got 7 self-published albums under his belt, numerous Aboriginal awards, and 3 Juno nominations. Along with the musical accomplishments, Amero and his wife are expecting their 3rd child. Right now, he's on his Amero Little Christmas tour.
And so this Christmas show came about 7 or 8 years ago, and my whole purpose of it was to sort of like hopefully remind everybody what the spirit of the season is about, and really sort of get people to kind of not get lost and caught up in the commercial side and presents and gifts and all that stuff.
The Little Christmas tour is winding down, but he'll be right back at it in January with his 8th album and a possible deal with a record company. He credits his Indigenous roots for his perseverance.
I didn't grow up with a lot of tradition and a lot of culture. Music and my roots in the Indigenous community have kind of grown together.
Donna Mero is at the West End Cultural Centre in Winnipeg Saturday night at 8. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
How does Don Amero still not have a record deal? This week, MPs are saying goodbye to the House of Commons for at least a decade as construction crews prepare to move in. For the next 10 years at least, construction workers will replace politicians and their staffers as the iconic building at the center of Parliament Hill undergoes massive renovations. Work being done includes overhauling electrical and other systems, removing asbestos, and improving earthquake resistance. A temporary new House of Commons chamber has been built nearby in West Block Courtyard. I'm willing to bet that won't be done by 2028. That's all the time we have for tonight. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca, and download the APTN News app. Now stick around for Nation to Nation with Todd Lamarand. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.